Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. We're actually on episode 14 on this long-lived journey for the rest of our lives. We're only 14 weeks in. So, Feels good, man.
It does.
You know, before we go any further, I do need to mention the camel almost didn't make it today.
Yeah, I know.
He almost didn't make it. Right before we went on, we realized he wasn't on the desk. You may say, well, why wouldn't he be on the desk? Well, I don't really use this desk a lot. It's basically for the podcast, for the most part. People come in, I guess, every now and then. Maybe somebody work at it, but we had a little competition today. It wasn't really a competition. It's just whenever you get a bunch of men in a room, there's this...
I bet you can't.
Alpha male that comes out of all of us where we just, hey, man, can you do that?
All of us? Or...
It's true.
Just you and Buddy.
Yeah. Brandon's quiet.
Yeah.
But he's alpha male. So basically this desk
he participated, though.
Buddy asked if I ever do box jumps. Well, Buddy's been trying to get me to go on the podcast live and bench 295 pounds. So we got talking about that. And then Buddy said, you do box jumps? I said, yeah. And I said, bro, I bet you I could flat foot. I said, I know I could flat foot jump on top of this desk.
Yeah.
And this is probably, what, 5-6 feet?
Whoa.
I mean, I'm like 7'3", so when I'm sitting down flat, this is probably
took my brain for a whirl there.
So
for
like
a second.
3 foot, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. Standard.
Probably
36 inches.
3 foot. Is that? Yeah, I don't know. Man.
Anyway, so Buddy
Probably.
held the desk and I flat foot jumped on it. And then BP was like, well, I said, can you do this? Yeah, BP did it. And Buddy was going to do it, but then he realized he'd nick his shins and probably rip half his leg off.
Oh.
What was that, bro?
I think BP left his Bluetooth speaker on.
Oh, he's probably listening to us. But we did it, you know, so that's what goes on.
Yeah.
You know, random. It didn't take long. But to prove our point. But it's just what happens around here. But we do have great news.
What's that?
The Washington Commanders have officially been sold. Let's go.
Oh, man.
Let's go.
Okay, nice.
Let's go. Fight for old DC, baby. I'd like to thank Matt in advance for purchasing this for me months ago, and I told him I'd wear it once we finally sold. We're sold.
Okay.
So it's been a good week, man.
Yeah.
You know, for all the season ticket holders, I got an email from the president of the organization letting me know that things were taking place. So I appreciate that. Washington, thanks for thinking of me. You know, I'll see you soon.
Hit me with the deets. What?
Josh Harris bought us. There's some financial things they didn't know if they're going to get worked out. And so because of that, the NFL is thinking about changing a financial policy because of the way the Commanders was purchased. It makes me nervous.
Oh, okay.
But we have a new owner. So maybe another 25 years of a downward spiral. I believe you. Josh Harris, let's go. Bring us a championship. That's what I want. A new stadium. Fine, championship's what I want. Call us whatever you want. They say that they're probably going to change their name, they think, again, because it was like tied to Dan Snyder era.
Wow.
I don't care what we're called.
Yeah.
Just make up your mind, because I'm starting to buy apparel, and it's costing me a lot of money. Make up your mind. I like our uniforms. I think our uniforms are some of the best in the league. They look awesome.
Yeah.
I like them. I like how clean they are. But just make up your mind. I'm fine with Commanders. If they want to get away from the era, I don't care. Just make up your mind. That's all I'm asking. Like, it's just taking too long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, but you know, on a sad note, MTV News shut down. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever watch MTV News?
Just
TRL?
the news section?
Yeah,
okay.
like that whole area of the MTV News no longer. You know, they used to be like in the middle of the day, like, hey, a brief from what was the dude's name?
What was his name? My wife was here.
Not Shay. What was his name?
Yep.
Look it up.
Let us. Okay.
Come on, look it up, man.
All right, I'm gonna
give
look
us
it
that
up.
info.
Keep talking about it. I'm gonna look it up.
But anyway, so with that being said, TRL was a huge part of my life growing up. You know, who didn't watch TRL? And you used to have that guest VJ show before TRL. You come and be a VJ, and you make a run on it. Well, that was always good. But then last week we talked about 90s shows that we liked. I did get some hate mail. You know, people were mad we didn't mention Family Matters or Salute Your Shorts. Salute Your Shorts was more one person, and you guys can all guess who that was. But Family Matters, I mean, that was a good one. Listen, there's a lot of honorable mentions when you talk about 90s TV shows. Like, we're not going to get them all right.
Sway.
That's what it was. What did I say?
Shay or something like that?
That's one letter.
It was close.
That's one letter, bro. You can't hate on that. I mean, yeah, Sway. But anyway, so, you know, we got a little bit of hate last week from the mentions, but well, let's go on a high note. We do want to make a correction. The 18 was in the 80s.
Yes, it was. I was totally wrong. I'm sorry.
But did you watch it in the 90s?
I watched it in the 90s.
Bam. Done.
Yeah. TV land.
Then it works. All right. One big thing is merch. Everybody's saying, we want merch. We want merch. We want merch. We want merch. It's dropping.
It is.
June the 15th.
Oh, man.
June 15th. Man, what is going on over there?
You know what, BP?
Why has he always got that stuff going off, man? The other day he was in a meeting and somebody's talking to that speaker to me. He forgot to
keep talking. I'm going to walk by
the camera.
But
listen. June 15th, Merch drop. Listen, we're gonna have. Should I tell them a couple? I'm gonna tell y'all a couple of the items. All right. There may or may not be sweatshirts. There may or may not be t-shirts. There may or may not be hats. There may or may not be. I don't know. But what I do know is that all the gear looks really, really, really good. That's what I do know. And so you don't want to miss it. The store will be live on the 15th. So the 14th, that Wednesday, the podcast will drop that evening. The 15th, that store is going to be live. And, maybe we'll do some early releases. Who knows?
Nice.
You don't really know.
Just in case you thought the show is edited, it's not.
It's not. This is live. And you know what? We intentionally don't edit it because we feel like if a podcast is going to be great, my heart whenever we started this was like, I just want people to get it. I want to talk about real things in real time, and I don't want to edit it because I don't want it to be polished. I want it to be right there in front of you. And so when you see Bigfoot walk across the screen to go shut something off, that's real time. We're not editing it.
Nope.
Because this goes live. As soon as we're done, we cut, paste, print the check, call it a day.
Yep.
All right. Well, you asked for it. Let's go. Take it to him. I got you.
You're
Again,
going fast
I got
today.
You. Let's go.
Right, here we
you
go.
asked for it, baby.
Super fast.
Don't
I
blame
didn't see
me.
anything on the screen.
You asked
There
for
it
it.
is.
Not edited. Again.
Not edited.
Not edited.
All right, here we go. Hey, so my homeboy Andrew, he has his great question. Happened yesterday. He says, Wembanyama, French basketball player, went first to the San Antonio Spurs. Is he the greatest NBA draft pick of all time? I do know this. They say he's the number one since LeBron James.
Oh, wow.
He is the biggest pick in the NBA since LeBron James. Is he number one of all time? I would say no. And I'll tell you why.
That's a big statement.
Because Michael Jordan wasn't the number one pick of all time. He wasn't the number one pick of his draft.
Yeah.
And so I just think the amount of players that are picked number one overall that become the greatest of all time are very minimal.
Yeah.
Minimal. A lot of times sometimes the number one player fits a need on a team. Sometimes the number one player is overhyped. But if you look at the NFL draft or the NBA or whatever, if you look at the number one picks of all time, I would be curious to know the statistics of the number one picks that become greatest Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers. The percentage of number one picks to become Hall of Famers. I would be curious to know that because I think Wembanyama, I haven't watched him. I've seen stuff. I've read stuff. I think he's going to be a great player. But number one, is he going to be as good as LeBron? Dude, it's just so hard to say that. Everybody's making a big deal right now with the Nuggets, with Jokic. He's amazing. He had 19 assists or 19 rebounds last night or just before or at halftime. I mean, that's unbelievable.
So I got to look up the stats for basketball. For football, 14 people.
14 people in all of NFL history have become Hall of Famers that were number one picks.
Yep.
There you have it, folks. Do I need to say more? So, the next question was from David here at the beach. He said, are the Lakers going all the way? And I'll say this, I'm a Lakers fan. I have been since Kobe. That's when it started for me. That's when I really started watching them. I was in college. That's when I really got into the NBA playoffs, Kobe, Shaq era. And I will say I hope so. I do not watch NBA playoffs very much. I'll tell you this. But when the Lakers are in it, I don't miss a game. So typically year to year, NBA playoffs, I will watch them, but I'm not committed to them. When the Lakers are in the playoffs, I watch them every time they're on. Every night the Lakers are on, I'm watching them. I know when they're playing. I know what days they're playing. So last night I was like, okay, it's the first game of the Denver series. Like I'm in it. So I am one of those fans that I don't watch all the NBA. I watch parts of it, but when the Lakers are in, I watch every game. So I hope they go all the way. I care deeply that they go all the way and win it. Because there's just, for me, I fell in love with the NBA during the Kobe Bryant era. Watching him play was majestic. Mm-hmm. And when him and Shaq played, it was awesome. But just Kobe, he loved the big moment. And I can't tell you the amount of moments I had watching that guy play basketball. So the Lakers are special to me for that reason. They're the reason I fell in love with watching the NBA. And I know I grew up during the Michael Jordan era. He was awesome, don't get me wrong, but I was a little older. I kind of had more of an appreciation for the game whenever I was a little older. And so watching the Lakers play in the playoffs this deep it's majestic for me. I absolutely love it. So I hope they go all the way. So David, yes, I hope they beat your Golden State Warriors.
You want to know
because they already did. So I hope they win it. You want to
know
that
the
wasn't
number?
a soft jab. Just
You want to know the number for NBA?
Yeah.
19
NBA first round picks became Hall of Famers.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. Well, I have something that I think will interest Corey.
Nice.
And so I brought this one today because I read the article, but I'm not going to tell you much about it because I want Corey to tell us about it. We've talked a lot on here about aliens, UFOs,
Yep.
life outside of this place, if it exists,
Yeah.
Jesus, and if that life exists and we believe in Jesus, then he made that life. But I read an article, and it's called Our Holographic Universe. Now, this is your sweet spot. Again, you love this stuff. I've heard you before mention in passing, but with a doctoral understanding of holograms and whether or not we're living in one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so the question is, why are physicists so enthralled by the idea that space-time somehow emerges from a surface at an unseen cosmic boundary? So they believe there's this unseen cosmic boundary that's creating this hologram that we're living in.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's full of crap, but
essentially we live in the Matrix.
yes.
Yeah.
So would you please let all of our listeners
You know what's cool about that? So yeah,
talk to us, Corey?
Theories. So the theory about this, which is really cool, which let's say this because okay, let's start with tinfoil hat. Let's say we live in like a virtual reality world, right? So that means someone else created this virtual reality world for us to live in, right? And so now we are now creating virtual reality worlds for like in essence, we could create a virtual reality world for computers, like AI.
Let these people see you, man.
AI.
I don't think they can see you. They need to see your pretty
I keep
face.
forgetting about the switching. All right. Here we
Well,
go.
they need to see you because this is going to be, I
Okay.
think we're about to ready to be introduced to something profound.
So
here.
it's kind of like a world within a world within a world within a world, and it keeps going. And when does it stop? That's kind of the theory behind a lot of this stuff. So basically, there's a creator who created this virtual existence, and much like we have AI right now, that's kind of like in a way becoming conscious. It's kind of weird. Like, these AIs are thinking for themselves. They're problem
we created
solving.
them, but they're now thinking beyond what we can think.
We created them, correct. They are now almost thinking on their own. Now, granted, you have to prompt them, but there's plenty of things out there where these things are just spitting out solutions to problems. And the tricky thing is we don't know how they're coming up with those solutions, which is the hard thing. So let's say we create this world for them. They become smart enough to create their own world for something else. And so you see how it just keeps going down and
so
down.
they're
and
saying
down
that
and
somebody
down.
created this world for us, that there's something created this world for us that we're living in.
Yeah. Now we're creating worlds for other things to live in.
But let me be clear on this. Everybody's like, well, then where is God? Well, God created everything at the beginning. So my thing is this. I'm not saying that I'm buying into it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that everybody's like, well, where are we at? Well, the reality is this. At the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, period.
Yeah.
Everything moving on after that, it's really insignificant as to how it got here.
Sure.
So I just want to say that for all those listening that are more on the conservative side, or they're like, well, Jesus is real. What do you say then? This nothing to do with Jesus. Jesus is real. We know that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so back to your point. So you're saying this hologram, they're saying that things that were created intelligences even could have created things that we're living in now, and we could be a created intelligence type thing.
Yeah. And again, just to make it clear, I'm not subscribing to these beliefs. I'm just saying I like reading about them. I think it's interesting. But yeah, so let's take video games, for instance, and virtual reality and these worlds. At what point do computer graphics reach a place where it seems like real life, where it's almost hard to tell the difference between the real world and a photorealistic generated world from a computer that then you could place an AI consciousness into and live?
Well, I'll tell you what, that the Spider-Man game that came out with PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
We had that.
Yeah.
That looks unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the first gen game on PlayStation 5. That Miles Morales game looks absolutely incredible. And the detail, everything on top of the roofs of these places. I mean, they look amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's parts where you couldn't distinguish between real life and a video game, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you search, and so probably one of the top people in this field is Unreal Engine 5, I believe it is now. They're creating things that it'll blow your mind. You'll be like, how is that computer generated? I mean, and even talk about movies. How much we can do in movies, how much Hollywood
where it's not
can
actual
do
stuff.
Where
it's
it's
fake.
all CGI.
Yeah.
The Avatar world, whatever.
It's all fake.
All of it's fake.
Yeah, and see, so this is my thing. I'll tell you where I'm at. So this stuff doesn't challenge me and it doesn't confuse me, and I'll tell
Yeah.
you why. My mind is so yes or no
Mm-hmm.
about. I don't think that stuff doesn't provide any type of barrier, or there's nothing for me that's hard for me to understand that could be real, and it doesn't affect anything about my life.
Yeah.
Like some people really, it gets twisted in them of like, what if we're, and it goes deeper and deeper, and this hole just keeps getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
My mind doesn't work like that. So for me, when I read this stuff, I'm like, like whatever.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
care.
yeah.
I still got to pay my bills. My mortgage is due. You know,
Doesn't
like you
change
just think like
anything,
it doesn't change anything about my life. Where other people are like, this is the foundation of our system and our
Yeah.
ecosystem and how things work. And I'm like, you know.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
how does it make you think?
Oh, I think it's more it doesn't necessarily make me think a ton because again, yeah, my faith, I know what I believe. It's just for me sometimes I think it's just the studying what other people think. I like theories, like that kind of stuff. Like that kind of stuff has always interested me. Space has always interested
Do you
me.
think this is more people searching? Do you think this is people searching for significance, or do you
Yes.
think more than anything? Do
Yeah.
you think it's people searching for something that we don't understand because there's? Do you think it's something? I mean, do you think at the core of this, it could be people searching for something
think-
bigger that
yeah.
they just don't know is already there in
Yeah.
God? I mean, I'm not saying it because there's a pastor on a podcast. No, I'm saying I can tell you when I read so many articles, I'm like, yeah, people are searching. It's that easy. It's
Yeah.
not just a scientific. Oh, I'm hungry for this. I think people are searching for something.
Yeah. I think there's
Some of it seems crazy.
an
but
inexplicable, is that a word? I think that's a word. Inexplicable nature of God that people want to explain. And so for them, if they don't believe in God, they have to somehow make sense of something because science doesn't close every loophole. It just doesn't. Like it can't.
no.
Um
How do you close a loophole on God?
yeah,
You
you,
know,
just
like
there's
We'll know the surface of what he's done, but we'll never know.
yeah.
Let me ask you this. So we're in a very weird post-COVID church era, right?
Mhm.
Like back in the day when we were kids, even everybody kind of went to church on Christmas and Easter, if nothing else. And our parents, when everybody went on Sundays. So before our era, it was like, well, everybody went on Sundays. They might not go a lot, but everybody went on Sundays. Is what you did. I mean, there's songs written about that. You go on Sundays, go to grandma's house for lunch, everybody shows up.
Yeah.
You know, then our generation was the sports kind of played into it. Every now and then it'd be acceptable to miss a Sunday for something else. And then later on, it was like, well, people just come on holidays to show God. Like, hey, before it was like, hey, we go on Sundays just to show God that we are in this thing. Now it's like, well, we go whenever we can. And then the travel bar world kicks in. Sports take place on Sundays now. There's no
Yeah.
sacred day. And I think some people think that that's a bad thing. I don't, because people don't work on Monday through Fridays anymore. The world's changed. I mean, you got doctors and nurses, and I mean, you got all kinds of things. People, the military community here, people don't work Monday through Friday. It's not the way it works. Like your Sabbath, the day of rest that you get is a day of rest you can choose. You don't have to make it
Yeah.
a mandatory day, right?
Yeah.
Well, I say that because I feel like in this post-COVID era, especially, the hardest thing for people to adjust to is the fact that there's no structure in life.
Hmm.
People don't go to work at 9 to 5 anymore.
Yeah.
People work from home. People don't want to go to work at 9 to 5. They don't want to get in their car. They don't have to get up, get dressed, get in their car, drive somewhere and work, and then come home and then get their kids dinner and then take them to games. That's not what people want to do anymore.
Hmm.
That's going past, right? People want to work from home. People want more benefits. People want more free time, more time off. Like things have changed because they were at home for a year and they realized life was scary, but I get to be at home. I don't want to be
Yeah.
100 miles an hour anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think we're all 100 miles an hour. It just looks a little different. I say that because I think that we're just in an era where the world is changing. I feel like we changed 20 years in 1 year. And I think that this stuff has always been around. But I just feel like people are searching, and I feel like we're there's so many things that are just hard to nail down right now. I think there's so many things that are going to be reinvented, whether it's the church and other things. There's things that are going to be reinvented right now, which you either latch onto and you're a part of, or you get left behind. And I feel like sometimes these types of things are great. I love them, but it really leads into the next article that I read, and it was talking about America as in its insecure attachment era.
Hmm.
And what it was saying is that there's a big discomfort with intimacy. It's on the rise, and nobody really knows why.
Hmm.
Now, do I think it's connected to holographic universe? No, I don't think it has anything to do with it. But I just think the world is changing so much, so fast. And I would say the majority of people probably stuff things.
Oh yeah.
And because of that, intimacy is something where people become very narcissistic. It's all about me, my feelings, my hurt, my pain. And they actually said narcissism rates were increasing amongst Americans.
Yeah.
And the reality of the end of the thing was just talking about how the world's a scary place and our personal lives exist within it. And I don't know, as I read it, I feel like we're just in a place right now as a world where we're trying to figure out what the new flow is. And I think it's scary for people. Like, what's the new pace?
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to go back to what it was in 2019, where you work 9 to 5 and you do things a certain way. And everything feels very unstable. And that's why people they have faith. You're like, well, God is my stability. And you're like, well, that's great. But what does that really mean? Well, when he is, you understand that in a different way. I know for me, it's been panic attacks, different things I've experienced in my life. But whenever you like get back to that place of like, God's my stability, it just changes the game. You know what I'm saying? It brings peace in areas where, I don't know, as I've read through articles this week and I was watching stuff on just online. I feel like we're just it's just pandemonium still. It doesn't look like it on the news, but everybody's just sprinting around in circles still, just kind of trying to figure out the rhythms,
Yeah.
I feel like it's causing a lot of instability.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's good.
Just what it feels like, And I think, things like we came through the last couple of years, it just exposes a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and especially local church. Like there's that show coming out on FX, The Secrets of Hillsong.
Yeah.
And it's already started coming out. Exposes like the organization. And I just want to say to people who don't go to church or they aren't a part of it, like don't judge the church by what you see on TV that's tearing it down. Like go to a church where you find a good community and let them speak into your life and be a part. I hate stuff like this, man, because you feel like in the technology world we're in, like people are just constantly trying to discredit people. And it's all about canceling. And I'm just like, okay, well, let me ask everybody that's listening this question. Everybody that's listening to this podcast right now, I want you to think of somebody in your life that has offended you. All right? Think of somebody that really ticked you off, that said something you don't like, or maybe a kid's coach you don't like, or maybe it's a teacher, or maybe let's go a little closer. Let's say it's a family member. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that are married, let's go a little closer. Corey, I'm going to ask you a question. This may be indicting.
Yeah.
Has your wife ever offended you?
Yeah.
I'm saying to the point where you're like, I don't want to talk to her.
Yeah. For
Okay.
Sure.
I will admit right now on air, my wife has offended me.
Yeah.
Now, we know offense is us, right?
Yeah.
I've been ticked at my wife where I'm like, I don't know how I'm ever going to talk to her again. I'm so mad at her. And you're thinking, well, that's immature. Okay, well, if you've been married, you understand where I'm at. You're like, I don't want to talk to you. Maybe not ever. And you got to get in that blue zone, right? You got to cool down.
Yeah.
Well, my point is, I didn't cancel her. I didn't say, well, forget her. I'm never talking to her again. No, I found a way to come together and you get resolution. You talk out your feelings.
Yeah.
Right? And so when I read these things, I think what's happening is we are in such an opinionated society. We don't talk things out. We don't try to get resolution with people that we care about, or because you can't get to them. So you're like, well, cancel culture comes from I can't reach that person, but they're on my news feed. They're always giving me their opinions, and I don't want to hear their opinions anymore, so I'll just cancel them because it's not a two-way conversation. It's a voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they cancel. And I think that plays in a huge thing to why, one, Americans people are so lonely. I think it's a huge reason why I hate it when all these Secrets of Hillsong and all these shows are like, we're going to bash the church or we're going to tell you what really happened to Hillsong. You know what? Like, it's great for people to know truth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I just think we have to be very careful because cancel culture really just means I'm just not going to listen to what I don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
That's what it really means. It has nothing to do with, are some of those things unhealthy? Sure. But really cancel culture is about, I'm not going to listen to what I don't want to listen to. I don't want to hear you. I'm not going to listen to you. So I just think, and then we wonder why we're in a discomfort with intimacy. It's because anything in our life that makes us mad, we get rid of. Anything that makes us happy, we'll hold to. Any person we don't like, we start to push away. Any relationship that gets too close, if we're not comfortable, we push them away. If our spouse, you might want to have the physical closeness without the intimacy, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm only dubbing that because I know there's young people listening to this. But intimacy is different than sexual things. It's different.
Yeah.
Right? There's a connection emotional. There's a connection physically that's outside of that. Intimacy is a lot of times things you can do in the kitchen with your kids around.
Yeah.
You can hold a hand and kiss on a cheek or whatever it may be. Those are physical things. But what I'm saying is discomfort with intimacy is on the rise. And it's like, because we don't let anything affect us. And if it does, we just get rid of it. And that's not really an opinion. I feel like that's fact because we're seeing Everybody's like cancel culture, and then we have trouble with intimacy. Well, it's all connected, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, what I think, like, as you were saying, and even explaining things with your wife and that kind of stuff, and you get to this point where, yeah, you're like, oh man, like, I'm so upset, I'm so angry, you know, but what is at the core of all of that? What is at the core of that relationship? And I don't even mean this on a necessarily intimate level. I just mean it, you know, as a relational level, is love. I mean, it's love. You love that person. And so you're going to cool off. You're going to come back to the table. You're going to figure things out because of love, a mutual respect for another human being. And so I think from our world, I think we've lost the we've lost the love your neighbor, for one. Like, if the Bible tells us
Cancel your neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the Bible tells us
I'm putting a fence up.
to love our neighbor.
Yeah.
Well, before you love your neighbor, first off, you got to like your neighbor. Like,
try.
Yeah, exactly. Try to like them. And so, there's so much that we could agree and disagree on in this world. But, you know, again, I think that's why Christ centers it all back on love. And, you know, that's what we need to really work on.
It's impossible to get through a podcast without talking about the power of God, the gospel, of Jesus, the Holy Spirit. Why? Because it's like what my life's centered on, and it works. It's not just that it works; it's the truth. I'm not searching. I'm not like a lot of people. I'm not searching. I'm not like a lot of people trying to find a reason. I'm not trying to find a hope. I have that hope in my life, and so I read all these things, and it is the Bible says the wisdom of the world is it's really worthless. It's this. We don't have wisdom when we think we have wisdom, and I think that's where I'm like, man, if people would just find the source, and you know. I think that the biggest thing here, too, something to take away from is, for all of us, go back there and just look at what you've gotten away from in the last year. Has it been stuff that was healthy for you that you pushed away from, or unhealthy, which is good? But really, like, when it comes down to things in your life, what have you canceled that you know actually was there for good things? What have you pushed away that you're like, man, I kind of miss that, or I miss that person, or I miss that thing? Cancel culture, really what that means is if I don't like it, I get rid of it. And that's such an unhealthy thing. Because sometimes the voices we cancel are the ones we need to hear. Mm-hmm. They're the ones we need to listen to. Yeah. You know, and I'm not talking about just people that have good influence to hear the word of God. Because our thing is, well, if I don't like what you're saying, you're out. Well, that's just not being coachable. That's not, and sometimes that's a good thing, honestly, but canceling something is different than moving away from something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Canceling it, saying you no longer exist. But that's what happens with really prideful organizations and really prideful, as a country or countries. That's what happens. You're like, we're just going to do our own thing. Like, that's pride that comes before the fall. And I think for leaders too, all the leaders listen to this, business leaders, churches, pastors, executives. I think one thing I would say is, if you want a strong organization, if you want a powerful organization, systems you need, processes you need, but the number one thing you need in an organization is trust. You need trust. And if you don't have trust, you don't have a strong leadership structure. Yeah. If you don't have people that truly trust, I mean, the Daniel Coyle in the book Culture Code, my favorite book about leadership, he says that, they took three different groups to complete a project. One group within a company was the best at their jobs within the entire within the entire company. They brought together that, they were good at their jobs and they were committed to the company. The other group was people who were the best at these particular jobs within the world, and they brought together for this company. The third group was people that just got along. And the third group outperformed the other, and they trusted each other. And the third group outperformed the other two by like double every time they've done it. Yeah, they trust each other. There was a trust network, and I think that's what we have to get to in businesses, leaders, organizations. If you don't create that, people will have great teams, and like, I don't understand. They'll come to me. I don't understand what's happening. My team's not developed, or they'll ask me, "How do you get to this place?" And I'll look at them and say, "Do you have that trust?" If you can't look in the eyes of the people you work with and say, "These are problems that I have," and then you try to fix them together. Yeah, and I think a lot of times leaders, it's easy. It's easy, and I'm speaking from where I sit. It's very easy to become disconnected to, it's easy to become disconnected to organization, but it's very easy when you have multiple things on the table to let people run organizations and you lose touch with the people in the organization. Yeah. And what happens there is that's still trust. You got to have a level of connectivity in your organizations. And so, there's a reality of like, no matter where Palms Church goes, like there's gonna be a core of people that I'm always really connected to. They're like my core team. I can tell you their heartbeat. I can tell you where they're at. But I hope they're doing that for the people that they're leading, right? Yeah. But in an organization, you have to have trust. Yeah. And you get people that are mad at their organizations. Well, they're frustrated or they're complaining about something. It's like, well, have you told anybody? Have you told your boss? Have you sat down? Well, yeah, my boss doesn't really care. Or they just blow me off. Well, there's no trust. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I think that helps in every one of these categories. You know what I'm saying? If there's like that legitimate trust. Yeah. So, So if you're a leader, you're in business, you might think, well, I have such a good staff, it just isn't working. Well, there's a lack of trust in that crew. That room, there's a lack of trust. There might be one person who's high level, but people just don't trust them. And there's a reason. And the hardest thing to do is sometimes move on from people that are high performers, but they don't have the trust of the room. It doesn't matter. You got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. So I have a final thought.
Okay.
Here's my final thought.
So there was actually this week, we're continuing through the book of James at Palms Church, and I'm talking about, I think it's this week, I believe it is, talking about favoritism. And favoritism is a weird thing because sometimes, I think at this point in my life, I never make fun of people. I never look down on people. That's not ever been my heart. But favoritism is one of those things that sometimes you don't realize that you look at somebody and you're like, man, they must have a lot. And you look at somebody else, you say, man, they must not have anything. And I mean, there's an article I recently read. It says billionaires, you can't tell a billionaire by the way they dress. It's kind of the article. And in one of the articles I was reading not too long ago, it was talking about people in Rodeo Drive in Hollywood, and they were asking them, what are some of the consistencies of people that have the most money? And they said they wear sweatpants and sweatshirts in here when they shop. They're not the ones that are really high dressed. It's usually the ones you would never think. And I think there's just something so valuable in this because the Bible talks about, give a glass of water and make sure that you're entertaining people that you don't know, because at times men have done this, entertained angels. Like, you just don't know. And my dad, I remember growing up, he told me a story about these people. My dad was at a small church in a rural community, and afterwards on a Sunday night, these people came into the parking lot and they were looking for a place to stay and they needed food. And the church we were in didn't have a lot of money. I don't remember, and we didn't have a lot of money, but I don't remember exactly how the story goes, but I think it was along the lines of my dad took some of our money and the churches, and he took them to a hotel and put them up and got them food. And the next day, it was like they never were there. Mm-hmm. And my dad believes to this day they were angels. That there was a time he was going through ministry, these people showed up to the door, and he felt like God was like, just continue to walk forward to what I'm calling you to do what I'm calling you to do. And my dad took care of these people. And I remember that story, and he was like, I think we entertained angels that night. And I think it's just so important for us as people to stop looking at the appearance of people and stop judging based on what they think they are or what they say they are, and just look at people as God's creation. I had a couple of, I don't remember how long it was a while ago. I was at an ATM, and if you're like me, when you're at ATMs, you stand as far off as you can and you just give people their space. It's like a very private moment between them and their ATM. Yeah. I'm one of those guys that just stay far away. Well, I went up to the ATM after this young dude went up there, and I don't know anything about him. If I had to guess and I was being stereotypical, I would say he's like a computer guy. Yeah, but he was young 20s, didn't have anything flashy, very plain, and playing car or whatever, because it was right there. Didn't think nothing of it. Didn't judge, just didn't think nothing of it. Just like normal dude, young 20s dude, probably big into computers, just very plain. Nothing, no brands, no flash, nothing. And really nice guy. And his ATM receipt came out, and so it's kind of an awkward moment because it's like you're touching somebody's money. But he was getting ready. He's leaving. Yeah. And so I was almost like, hey, your ATM receipt kind of thing. But he was like kind of dry. It'd have been weird for me to track him down. So I grabbed it and went throw it away. And I did what you should never do.
You looked? Yeah.
I looked.
Well, we'd all do it.
I'm confessing.
Yeah.
I didn't feel bad time. It was almost one of those things where it wasn't like I pulled it up and stared at it. It was like as I was throwing it away, it caught my eye. And I can't be more genuine about this. There's over $30,000 on this slip. Yeah. This dude was probably 21, 22 years old. Yeah. And you might think, well, it's inheritance, this or that, this is that. But I in that moment, I really felt like the Lord stirred me. And it was this moment where God was like, bro, just look at everybody with that eye of they're my kid. Yeah. And just know that you never really know. And it wasn't even about money or that. It was just, I don't know, it was just the right time for me. And I think favoritism is one of those things where if we all would treat each other the same, if you got a billionaire that walks into the room or somebody who has nothing, we all know that's not the way they're treated. Yeah. But I think when you do that, you see that, I don't know, it's helped me see, I'm a visionary, so I can look at somebody's life and I can tell you like, man, this is what I feel for them. Like I could see them doing this thing. And I never would have looked at that dude and be like, yeah, this dude's got 30 grand in the bank. You know what I mean? 23, whatever. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know how it got there. Maybe he's a great saver. I knew that I was envious. You know what I'm saying? When I saw like, bro, this dude's young, got that kind of money. I never had that kind of money when I was 21 years old, 22 years old. I was, college debt. But But I think, man, it's one of those things for me where I think as I get older, I tell my boys all the time, like, man, you treat people with respect, honor them. I tell all my teams I coach, say, listen, honor your coach, honor your teammates, honor the game, honor the umpires. I said, great teams beat great teams with bad umpires. And I don't say that because umpires suck. I say it so they see, like, you will determine the outcome. If you play your best and you honor your umpires, things pay off. Things will pay off in the long run, you know. Teach my boys that. So wherever you're at today, whatever you're doing, whatever that looks like, treat people with the same, man. Look at them the same and know that they are a child of God. They're created with a purpose, but so are you. You know, you are created with that purpose. Who cares what people think? That's what I always tell my boys. It doesn't matter, guys. Perception is their reality, but not always reality. So do what you got to do. Take care of business and represent, man, and realize we're not living in a hologram.
Yeah.
Let me pray. Lord, we need you. We love you. We thank you. You are the King of all kings and Lord of all lords. We give you all that we are, all that we have. I pray for everybody listening to this, God. I pray that today they would know you see them, your hand is on them, and that you've never doubted them for a minute, that you know they can do everything and more you call them to do. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.